You're listening to Tutor Time with Mallory, and now for your host, Mallory Latouche.
And welcome back to Tutor Time with Mallory. Today I have the honor of interviewing Ms. Kelly Alves. How are you today, Kelly?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. What was the transition like going from being a director of a special education school to a four-year college?
It was a little bit different, obviously. I spent 7.5 years at New Independence Academy and loved every minute of it. But, there just comes a time when you have to move on to something else. And that's what happened here. Now I have the honor of teaching future teachers how to better relate to children with special needs. So that to me is pretty important. So being able to transition into that field and, hopefully make things better for kids with special needs down the road was pretty important. So I don't know if that really answered the question, but it was a good transition, but it definitely was different, very different.
What kind of degree do you need to become a professor on the college level, like University of Mount Olive?
To be an actual professor, you have to have a doctorate. So, I have a doctorate in curriculum and instruction. Now, there are other positions like adjunct positions you can do with a master's degree, but for an actual professor title, you do have to have a doctorate.
How many years does it take to get your degree into being a professor on the college or university level?
So I started my doctorate in January of 2016 and I defended my dissertation in October of 2018. So it took me just a little over 2.5 years, somewhere in there, to finish mine. Other people, it's possible to do it faster and it's possible to take a little bit longer. So I think the average is usually for a working adult who's doing their doctorate. I think the average is about 3 to 5 years. But, of course, there are people who take up to 7. Most colleges will put a limit around 7 years. Like if you haven't finished it in 7 years, then they kind of put the brakes on and either make you go back and do coursework over or start a new program or something like that. But it took me 2.5-ish years to finish my doctorate. And then I started working as an adjunct in 2020. So about a year later, I started doing adjunct work.
How did you feel when you got the news by phone call or email that you got the professor position at University of Mount Olive?
I was really excited. I, of course, had been doing adjunct work there for 2 years before this happened, but it was, kind of the right place, right time. The opportunity came up at the same time that I became available to do it. So it definitely kind of worked. And but yeah, it was exciting. It was sort of unexpected, but at the same time, I was super excited to have the opportunity.
What is the difference between being a professor and an assistant professor?
So that is really about kind of longevity. So in my case, I started as an adjunct professor, or I'm sorry, adjunct instructor. And then different universities have different guidelines for when promotion can happen. But for me, I served as an adjunct for 2 years. and had a doctorate. So the assistant professor, that's what Mount Olive, kind of bases it on. The 2 years of experience as a adjunct or an instructor, and then having a doctorate. Then you get the rank of assistant professor. And then from there, I think if you serve as an assistant professor for, I think, 5 years, you move up to associate professor. And then I think another 5 years from there, you become a full professor. So, and again, different universities have different guidelines. At some, you start as an instructor, then you move up to lecturer, or, something like that. But, usually you have to have at least 7 to 10 years of experience before you become a full professor.
How is it like being a professor for 3 different universities?
It's fun. It's busy. Of course, I'm an assistant professor with Mount Olive, but then at the other 2, I'm an adjunct instructor. So I don't have rank at those 2, but it's a lot of fun, and it's interesting to me too, because I teach very different things at the 3 different universities. At Mount Olive, it's primarily special education, and my focus is there. At the other 2, I do at Austin Peay State, I teach master's level educational leadership for future principals and assistant principals. And then at Liberty, I teach doctoral level applied research. So very, very different programs for all 3, which makes it interesting. I don't, keeps me from getting confused about what I'm doing, because they're all so different.
How is it like balancing being a professor and instructor at 3 different universities?
You become very good at time management. I have a to-do list all the time in front of me, and I'm still kind of old school, so my to-do list is paper-based. But every day I write down exactly everything I need to accomplish that day, and I set a schedule for myself. So, Mondays and Wednesdays I'm on campus at Mount Olive. Tuesdays and Thursdays I focus on, grading work and responding to students for the other 2 universities. But I stay busy because, grading that much work and preparing lectures and things like that, they take time. But I also do, of course, the other 2 are completely online. So I do classes for those in the evenings. So I stay very busy. Pre-cook a lot of meals, but again, it's fun. I'm one of those people, I like to be busy, so it works out.
What was it like being the adjunct instructor for Austin Peay State University?
So Austin Peay, that's a fun one. I grew up in Tennessee, and Austin Peay State is in Tennessee. And my bachelor's degree I got from Tennessee Tech University, which most people have never heard of that, but it's one of the in-state rivals for Austin Peay. So, we played against each other a lot, basketball and football and all that. So I, of course, was very familiar with Austin Peay, but I had never been there or anything. But when that opportunity came up, it was a lot of fun because it kind of connects me back to my roots, so to speak, even though it was not the same place. And, I didn't go there, but it's in Tennessee, so it's still home. But that one, that one's fun because it's a program specifically for future principals and assistant principals. So this program, they basically they form a cohort and they stay together through the whole thing, and they work as a group, and it's fun because you really get to know them, because the whole group stays together for the whole program. So.
How is it like getting to be an adjunct instructor for Liberty University?
Well, I love doing that. I actually got my master's and both masters and my doctorate from Liberty. So that being able to work where I, spent so much time learning is very rewarding. And, to me, working on a doctorate, of course, was one of the greatest things I've ever done. So, being able to help other people accomplish that goal, it's very rewarding, again, because I know what they're going through and I can help guide them through the process, which is fun.
What are some similarities and differences in being an assistant professor and an adjunct instructor?
So the similarities, you're teaching, that's primary. You teach the courses and grade the papers. So being an adjunct, of course, that just means that you're part-time and you teach a course and that's it. With being an assistant professor, and I'm still part-time at that. I'm what's considered allied faculty, so I'm not a full-time faculty member, but I do a lot of additional administrative kind of things as well. So I help out in the education department with some other roles there. But other than that, for me personally, and it's going to be different for everybody who is in that role, and depending on what exactly their duties entail, but my primary duties are teaching. So the big difference for me is just that I am on campus 2 days a week, and I help with administrative duties as opposed to just teaching.
How is it like going from working with youth children in the education system to working with young adults and even adults going back for their education?
Oh, goodness. Well, obviously it's very different. Of course, I was doing the adjunct instructor stuff while I was working as well. So this part, I've been doing it for 2 years now, in addition to being the director of the school. So I guess that part wasn't a huge change because I was already doing it. I do miss the kids and, working with the kids and getting to, hang out with them and see the little light bulb in their eyes and stuff like that. But kind of like I said before, I now, I get to help other people learn how to do that, which kind of, it's like the whole, pyramid thing where, there's me, but instead of me helping 3 people, now I can help 3 people help 3 more people. So I know in math terms, there's an actual word for it. Normally I would be able to say it, but it's, it's different because I don't get to interact with the kids, and that part I do miss, but it's still very rewarding and I enjoy it.
How is it like at Mount Olive College working in the School of Arts and Science and General Education?
Oh, I love it. it's, it's fun. I enjoy being on campus, and I love the people I work with, so that's a good thing. But I'm still pretty new, so I'm still getting the hang of things. I just started in January, so still, working on that, and like I said, getting the lay of the land and things like that. But so far, I really enjoy it.
What was it like receiving your master's degree in special education and teaching at Liberty University in 2014 and 15?
Oh, it was awesome. It was one of those things that I had actually put off for a really long time, and ended up where, the time was right, so it worked out. But it's not easy. I will say that it's not easy, especially, when you're working full time as well. But you buckle down and, get done what you've got to get done. And Liberty, of course, I love the whole experience of being a student at Liberty. So of course, it was online, so it's different than being on campus, of course, but it's a good school, and it was a rigorous program, so I felt like I learned a lot in special education.
What was it like being a director at the Sylvan Learning Center in Goldsboro from June 2004 to August 2014?
Oh goodness, I loved that. I got to work with students who not always were struggling, but a lot of times were struggling, and you can't really. I think I mentioned earlier, that seeing that light bulb go off, and in that situation, it was one of those things where you really got to see it a lot because you were doing one-on-one. You were working with the students in a much smaller capacity, so it was a focused intervention kind of thing. So I was really able to kind of see that spark a lot, and knowing that you were helping someone not only in the moment but for their future as well. And it again was one of those things, you stayed busy, but it was fun.
How do you balance your family life and being the assistant professor at University of Mount Olive?
I have the world's most understanding husband and the most encouraging husband. Sorry, anybody else out there, but mine's got you beat. But he, I try very hard to keep my working hours, kind of when he's at work. So like during the day, when I'm not on campus, I get as much done as I can during the day. And then of course, when I'm teaching in the evenings, he keeps the dogs quiet and stuff like that. But I think I kind of said earlier, I pre-cook a lot of meals. So, what I try to do most of the time is weekends are, no work unless I absolutely have to. If there's something that has to be done, then great. But otherwise, weekends are away from the computer, and we do the family thing. And then, menu planning is vital because, I don't have a lot of time to say, hey, what am I going to cook tonight, and sit and think about it. So we just plan a menu and, do as much as we can. But my husband really picks up a lot of slack for when, the things I can't take care of, like laundry and stuff like that. So he's a good one.
What advice would you give young adults that want to pursue a career in teaching or higher level education?
So for the ones who want to go into teaching, I would say right now we need good teachers desperately. It's a time of transition, I guess, in the field of education, but we need teachers. So do it. Get the degree, and if you need to look into, like, if you're already working and you want to transition into a new career in education, there's a lot of residency programs, or where you can get your license, your teaching license. So definitely pursue that, because it really is a field that we need good people, and the jobs are there, so it's a good time. For higher education, one of the keys to, if you're looking into education in the higher education field, so I can't speak for like chemistry or, nursing programs and that kind of thing, but in the education field, if you want to go into higher ed, then you need that experience in the schools. Most higher ed programs aren't really that interested in people who don't have the real life experience in the school system. So, get that experience, get your master's. If you haven't, work on your doctorate. That's the best way to get to a higher ed position, is to pursue a doctorate, and do a lot of research, because you want to make sure that you know the best program, but also the relevant research in the field. So, start reading literature reviews and that kind of thing, because eventually you're going to have to do one.